creepy stuff.
Why is it glitching?
Wait, join with computer audio.
I did. I'm clicking it.
Okay. Maybe end and redo it.
Why did I think you had a Mac, Andrew?
Okay.
Do you want me to join in on the meeting?
How do I get out?
Oh, okay. Just share screen.
Oh, can we turn off the lights or something?
No, let's keep them. Oh,
Oh, it's like
dim the lights or
delayed.
something?
yeah, dim. Oh, okay.
Let me try ending it.
Okay.
Isn't that weird?
Wait, press X to go. Shruti, that's way too dark.
Oh. Maybe admit. Should I admit people and then?
Admit, yeah.
Just kidding.
Wait, just don't full screen it. Like exit out of the full screen. Shruti, keep.
Okay. And then share my screen. Where is she? I think she's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Share.
I love Zoom. She's just so much fun to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have to do I have the preset on you have to let people in or
I
no?
think so.
Let me change that.
I'm bad with technology.
Here, wait, let me do it real quick.
Go for it. Hello.
Hi.
Oh my.
Why does she like this?
Nobody watch me struggle with this, please. It's embarrassing. Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm doing.
Do you want help? Yeah, on the bottom. On this.
I'm kind of here. I realized halfway through. Okay, I'm not a boomer, I swear. No, it says enable join before host, and I don't have a waiting room on. So that makes 0 sense.
You don't have a waiting room?
No,
Okay.
although this says otherwise.
Okay. No, we can. They're hearing all of this.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to our struggle.
Technical difficulties.
Welcome to my Zoom account. She looks beautiful today. Oh, I did enable it. Everybody watching this at home, you did not just see that. Okay.
Okay. Now let's go to this.
Okay. It should be fine. I'll try and join it from my laptop.
Okay.
Make sure. And then it should
And then just have it go.
and just start whenever you guys are ready.
How do I move her?
So like here.
I'm so
No,
bad
it's
with
okay.
technology.
VGR is literally
scares me.
VGR is literally the only thing that let me learn how to. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Minimize that window if you want.
This?
Yeah.
Okay. Like that, or am I doing?
I think that's fine.
Okay. Cool. Well, hello everyone. We're so excited to give this presentation today and kick off mental health. But first, we have some announcements.
Yes, we have some general Timmy announcements. So obviously this week is Mental Health Week. If you guys want to, you can follow us on Instagram at Purdue Timmy. And some following announcements are the Day of Timmy on October 14th. We have a music therapy event on October 15th. We have Skip a Meal at Panda on the 21st. And you guys can join the GroupMe via the QR code right there. And we have club dues for $5 a semester that you will pay online. The link will be sent out soon.
Yeah. So if anyone needs to use that QR code, I can give it a couple seconds. But if everyone's good, then I'll move on. Okay. So what are we going to be talking about today? So let's talk mental health. So we wanted to kick off Mental Health Week in a fun way and just kind of talk about topics that pertain to it and that relate to all of us as college students. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
So we did want to give a little bit of a trigger warning. We will discuss things today like suicide, depression, and eating disorders. We're also going to be talking about anxiety and other mental health issues. So if that is a lot, feel free to step out. No one would be offended at all.
And we also have a challenge by choice activity too. So don't feel obligated to participate in the activities that we have. It's all up to y'all. So let's get started with some introductions. So I'm Andrea Whittekind, and I'm a junior studying microbiology and health and disease with a minor in anthropology. So that's kind of a mouthful, but that's me.
I'm Christina Kelly. I'm a sophomore studying psychology and law and society with a minor in women and gender studies. So also a mouthful.
Yep, and we are your directors of education. All right, so just to set the tone for this presentation, we really wanted to, we wanted to open with a quote. So I found this and I thought it was a really good way to start this off. So your present circumstances don't determine where you can go, they merely determine where you can start. So I just kind of wanted to open the floor to get a couple responses to see what this may mean to any of you. I can go first and just say that it means that what I have going on in my life, whether I might be struggling, that doesn't define like my day tomorrow, and it doesn't impact my future. It's just what's going on right now. And yeah, that's me. But if anyone would like to share, I can hold off for a couple seconds. Yeah, go ahead.
Mainly in terms of like mental health, it mainly just says to me that you know where you're at, but you know, it doesn't limit where like everybody's prognosis is different. I know that with friends it's the same thing. And it's not like a clear like linear like the health. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else want to share? All right, we'll move on. Maybe. All right, so we wanted to touch on a couple mental health illnesses that pertain mostly like to college campuses. So the main ones that we found were anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. So that's just something to keep in mind as we keep going forward. And these are just a few statistics that I found. So 80% of college students feel overwhelmed by their responsibilities. And I know for me, I can definitely relate to this because I have so much going on and I can get overwhelmed very easily with school and balancing everything. So I know that definitely pertains to me. And then 50% of college students feel that their mental health is poor, and 75% of students with depression do not seek help. So especially that last one kind of speaks volumes to me because we want to kind of work towards stopping that stigma and breaking that down in order for people to feel that they can like speak what they're feeling, you know, and open up and not feel bad about those thoughts. So going into anxiety. So 40 million adults suffer from an anxiety disorder, and 75% of them suffer their first anxiety attack by the age of 22. 30% of college students report that stress has negatively impacted their academic performance, and 41.6% stated that anxiety presented as a top concern among college students. And then moving on to suicide and depression. So 25% of students surveyed report having thought about suicide, and suicide rates have tripled since the 1950s for students between 15 and 24 years of age. And second, suicide is the second most common cause of death for college students. And that graphic that I found where no one else can play your part, I think that's really important to realize because like you're on this earth for a reason and no one can fulfill that role that you can. So just know that you're not alone and you have a support system. So what can you do? So first, you can identify your mindset, identify patterns that you might be falling into and what might be holding you back, and write goals, make a plan. Then take action. With these goals, you can make progress and make steps or take steps that are outside of your comfort zone in order to promote that growth. And then you can reflect and consider where you are or where you were, where you are now, and what skills you need to continue that growth. And then something interesting that I found was about neuroplasticity. So the more steps we take, oh, you're good. The more steps that we take, the more our brain makes new pathways. And these new pathways can create new patterns that help us like continue to grow.
So going into another illness, we're going to talk a little bit about eating disorders. So eating disorders are any range of psychological disorders characterized by abnormal or disturbed eating habits. This includes, but isn't limited to, bulimia nervosa, anorexia nervosa, binge eating disorder, and rumination disorder. I know that the eating disorders tend to be heavily dominated by females, and people tend to associate females with eating disorders, but men also play a large part in eating disorders, and people tend to neglect them, although there are 10 to 15% that are diagnosed with anorexia or bulimia are actually male. And then we have eating disorders in college. So eating disorder culture can often be amplified on college campuses. This includes the normalization of decisions like not eating before you go out to drink in order to feel stronger effects of alcohol, or not eating to fit into an outfit. Another thing that people often are afraid of is the freshman 15, even though when you come into college, most people are around 18 years old, and it's very common for them to continue to grow into an adult body from a teenage body, and the freshman 15 is actually really healthy and normal. So some other factors include in getting an eating disorder in college include stress and desire for control and insecurities that tend to become more prominent when you're in an unfamiliar location like college. Then I have a little statistic that says around 12 to 25% of women will struggle with an eating disorder in their time in college.
So now we want to transition into an activity to kind of get the blood flowing. So this is a challenge by choice activity. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to read off statements, and I'll ask if this statement applies to you. You stand up, and then we'll tell you to be seated. And it's just to gauge who all is being impacted by this statement. So the first statement, please stand if you think your mental health could be improved. All right, you can be seated.
The second statement is, please stand if you know someone who has suffered from anxiety.
All right, you can sit down. The third statement, please stand if you know someone who has suffered from depression. You can sit down.
The fourth statement is, please stand if you have felt overwhelmed and alone this semester.
You can sit down. And then the last statement is, please stand if you feel you do not have a support system at Purdue. Okay, cool. So, well, I'll just touch on that for a second. So looking around the room and seeing how many people these statements applied to, does anyone have any thoughts or like how it made them feel just looking around the room? Go ahead.
I noticed that almost everybody was standing up when they said they knew someone who suffered from depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Most people do feel like they have a support system, but like those same people still like understand to say that they with mental health, and it's like really normal. And it's important to recognize that, yeah, like you might have a support system, like great family, great friends, but it's okay to also like everyone's gonna have those like more overwhelmed or feeling lonely, like no matter if you are accompanied by people who love you, and so like it's okay to be like that, like you're not like failing it, and not like I'm grateful, like you're feeling that way, that's like really normal.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? I thought it was also interesting seeing that no one stood up for like feeling that they don't have a support system here. And I think that speaks volumes, hopefully, to how like the Purdue environment and the friends that you've made really support you. And that was just really cool to see. And I'm happy that you all feel like you have a support system, and you have yet another one in Timmy, just to point that out.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the percent reported of mental health disorders based on demographics. So overall, we have, so this, I don't know if that made sense, I guess. This like is a graph of the number of people in each race that had reported having a mental health disorder in the last year. So 13.4% of Asian individuals had reported having a mental health disorder, 19% of white individuals, 15.3% of Hispanic individuals, 16.8% of Black individuals, and the most prominent one was 24% of people who were 2 or more races. Okay, so now we're going to go into a little bit of the systemic barriers in mental health. So approximately 60% of adults and almost 1/2 of youth ages 15 to 18 with a mental illness received no mental health services in the previous year. And I guess we're going to take a look into why that is. So one of the main issues would be a lack of access. That could either be geographical through not having access to a therapist in a rural area, or financial because therapy and other inpatient mental health services can be incredibly expensive if you don't have insurance or if you're experiencing homelessness. Another factor would be language or cultural barriers. So if you don't speak English, it might be a lot more difficult to find a therapist or someone who would understand you and your culture or your language when you're in the United States. Thirdly, there's the stigma around mental illness. A lot of people don't want to get help because they believe that it would appear that to make them weak. And lastly, there's the criminalization of drug use. So many individuals who use drugs have experienced or developed mental health disorders, and oftentimes instead of receiving the care that they need, like rehabilitation or therapy, they're often funneled into the prison system, which just continues the cycle of mental illness and drug use. Now we have some statistics on the LGBTQ plus community and their mental health disparities. LGBTQ individuals are over twice as likely to report having a mental illness than their heterosexual counterparts. And here is a small graph that is about the people's sexual orientation and what percent of them have considered attempting suicide. Next, we have a slide about reframing your language about mental health. So a lot of times people will unknowingly say things that can be really offensive to people who have mental health disorders. So instead of saying something like, wow, I'm behaving so psycho, you could try to say, wow, I'm behaving wild or unpredictable. Next, you could say, instead of saying, oh, I'm always cleaning, I am so OCD, you could say, oh, I'm meticulous or type A or organized. Next, instead of saying, I changed my mind again, I'm so bipolar, you could say that you're indecisive. And lastly, you could say, instead of saying, I swear he has multiple personalities, you could say he's two-faced or deceptive. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't really think about. It's something that just kind of comes out of your mouth, but it could often be offensive to someone who has that mental illness.
I know I'm guilty of saying some of these.
I am too.
And like, this is not meant to like shame you for saying any of these. It's just meant to bring awareness kind of, because I had no idea and I didn't think like this, but after seeing it, I know it definitely opened my eyes to a new perspective. So then some negative patterns to reframe. So these are typically things that I know I get in the habit of doing that maybe we can try to change and just kind of redirect our thoughts. So one of them is stewing. So if you're dwelling on negative thoughts, it causes you to forget the positive ones. And I know I definitely am guilty of this, but just kind of switching that thought process and that narrative in your head, I know can go a long way. And then magnifying, so making more out of the situation than what it really is. Sometimes things are made a lot bigger and they don't need to be. They're a lot simpler. And then all or nothing. I know sometimes I see things as just black and white. That's not helpful. Like, you have to see kind of the gray areas in some situations. I think this allows for more understanding, more empathy too. And then assuming. So sometimes we think that we know the outcome of a situation, but that's not how it's going to go. And we react based on these assumptions, which can then have a negative outcome. And it might not even be how the situation was going to turn out. So just kind of not making assumptions and just kind of letting things happen versus trying to predict what will. And then personalization. So I know I take things personally sometimes when they don't have anything to do with me. But thinking that situations around us are happening because of us may not be an efficient way, or I guess a useful way to think, and there might be a better way to kind of reframe that. So just something to change your perspective maybe, or offer a new one. And then we wanted to do another activity, and this is also a challenge by choice, but if you go to this Mentee Survey, we have a question for you to answer on there, and then I'll use the live results on here to kind of see what, and it's anonymous too, so don't worry. And just to give like some examples, I know in past surveys like this, I have definitely felt that I'm not good enough, or a fear of failure. So those are just some. Okay, it seems like we have, oh, it's still changing. I'll give you all a minute or so for my online folks too. Okay, so what are some things that y'all notice about this? And you can shout them out. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people are afraid of failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see there's some there's social stress, and then, yeah, go ahead, Shruti. Yeah. Go ahead, Nora.
I think it's hard, especially because we're in college right now, so a lot of it is figuring out like who you are, really growing into yourself, your personality, but at the same time, we're in a really high intensity environment. I know at Purdue also, I felt this for the past, like this is year 3, that there's a constant pressure to succeed. Everyone around you is doing things all the time. Everyone around you is constantly like hanging out with the more really well at school. So there's just a lot of pressure to succeed all the time from all areas. So I think that's also just the thing about the colleges that we have to do more so highly intense. And it's being pushed on us from every angle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The classes are, the tables talks about work and determination. It's coming from everywhere.
Go ahead.
I think like building off that is also like a matter of never really like being content. It's like, you know, you can finish one second, you get something done, and then you go like, okay, what's next? Or like, you know, you do stay in online and like are studying for an exam, and then you're like, oh, I was able to find out with my friends. Then you go with friends, like, oh, I should stay and study, like I didn't finish that. So I think that's a lot of also that, just always like as a always looking for like a grad speaker on the other side, especially like if you're like now with COVID and everything. I know that me personally, it's like I've just been waiting for it's like and like it's time to kind of like focus on like the present and like on what you can do, like the small things. You know, just like appreciate those and like be kinder to yourself in that sense too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to add on to Nora's point that she mentioned earlier, I think as a senior right now, if I were to tell myself as a freshman coming to Purdue, I think it's best to not try to compare yourself to other people too often and just try to focus on being your best self. You can fall down like that rabbit hole of why I wasn't as good as this top student, or my grades weren't as good as this. But I think just trying to give your best effort.
Yeah. I relate to a lot of what y'all have been saying, especially Nor. I feel like I have a constant need to be doing something and I need to be productive and I'm in a constant state of stress and that's not helpful and like being productive or doing the tasks that I need to do. So I definitely relate a lot to that. But does anyone else have anything to add before I? Okay. Let's go back. So let's see, the main reason why we wanted to do this activity was we wanted to just make sure you guys knew that like you're not alone. And I'd love to see that y'all have a support system and that you feel supported here at Purdue, but know that with Timmy, you have a support system there too. We are always here for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. And just know that like you are enough and that you will overcome the struggles because you've overcome every struggle that you've had so far. So you're not alone and we're here for you.
So I did want to include some of the hotlines. You guys can feel free to take a picture of this or we can send out the slides at the end of the meeting. These are just a compilation of some different hotlines you can call if you feel like you need some help beyond your friends, beyond your family. And yeah.
And that's what we have for you today. Does anyone have any questions or comments, concerns? The floor is kind of yours. Go ahead.
Oh, are we gonna be able to sign up for volunteer opportunities later?
Yep, so sign up sheets will go out relatively soon for you to sign up and we'll provide that information.
I was just gonna comment, I thought a really interesting point was talking about the systemic aspect of mental health. I feel like that's something that you guys brought that up. I was like, oh, I didn't even really recognize that, even though I come from a like household. I think that's really important to kind of think about it yourself too, like when you come to college, because I know everyone comes from like their family's perspective of mental health. Like, your family really shapes how you view yourself, whether you can, like you could have anxiety, but it's the way you were raised not to accept it. Like personally, that's how my dad is. Like, he has anxiety, but because he was raised in a setting where that wasn't a thing, he's just never gotten treated for it. So I just really love that point that you guys made about personal barriers and stuff. So we have those conversations with other people too. About those barriers as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely okay to talk about. And we want to like open the floor to new conversations and make sure that people don't feel afraid to share.
Right.
So.
Yeah, sure.
I was wondering if I could go back to your point on the language. I think that's something that is really important to always consider because there's other things that people are considering. And I think it brings up the point of like all the mental illness, especially in college, we're very aware, I think, of anxiety and depression. I think those words are overly used. I don't want to say overused because they're quite common. So I think for someone to say that, oh, I am anxious, I have anxiety, they probably do. They have a common feeling. That being said, people I think saying I'm psycho or crazy, or saying that you're just OCD about everything in your life, that does degrade people who do have or diagnosed with OCD or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. There's so many other mental health issues that don't get covered or aren't easily recognized or accepted. That's where the stigma is, And then I think we've done a good job with our generation to understand anxiety, stress, and depression, and eating disorders. There's still a lot of progress, but there's other things we need to
focus on as well and start learning more about other mental health illnesses. I think that's focusing on language is a good way to do that.
Thank you. I guess along with that, I didn't write it down because honestly, I didn't think about it till right now. But another one that I have heard a lot, especially recently, is like crackhead. And I know a lot of people are always like, oh, haha, like using it as a joke, but it can also be really offensive to people who are drug addicts or do have something like schizophrenia. Honestly, I've used it before, and it's obviously a learning curve for everybody because this is, for a lot of people, really new. But yeah, I guess it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Any other comments, concerns, questions?
Hey, Andrea.
Also, just in general, thankful that like at a university setting, we continue or we're able to have these healthy conversations about positivity. I feel like in high school, like it encourages people having these kind of conversations, at least in the church.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do think there is a stigma around like mental health for like when you're younger, right? Almost like, oh, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about this. Like, I know like she was sharing like with her dad, like I know my dad does suffer from anxiety and he like doesn't get treated for it. I did not know like until I was probably like 16 or 17 years old. It like completely has been to me like if you ever brought up and they're like, oh, she's too young, but like I shouldn't be like that's just, you know, something that he's going through. Like, if he had like a physical illness, like I would know about that. So why should I not be able to talk about it? So, like, I agree. I think that it's good that we have these conversations and hopefully, like, in the future, that can just be something that is, you know, regarded as.
Oh. Hold on. Grace said, I just wanted to say that I love Mental Health Week because it's important for everyone to know that mental health is equally as important as physical health. Yes, snaps for that.
That's great.
We love Mental Health Week too. Yes, right.
I found it interesting that during the stand-up activity, nobody stood up for the one involving, you know, support system.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that might be indicative of some stigma that's around it. Because with how many people here, I wouldn't be surprised if one or two people, you know, genuinely felt that they didn't have a strong support system to rely on. Because I know if I was lucky enough to have one, I would be anxious or afraid to stand up and be one of the only people standing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I feel like that does definitely play into the social stress factor that a lot of people had said were hard for them when they have negative thoughts. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And this week is Mental Health Week, so we are excited to have these conversations. And this week, I'm sure, I don't know if y'all have seen our events that we have advertised on Instagram. If you haven't, follow us. And we have updates on those events. So basically, just to give a rundown of what we have, tomorrow we have QPR certification at 6:30, and we're going to emphasize suicide prevention and try to give you the tools to help raise that awareness and help prevent suicide. And then Wednesday, we have our anxiety kits, and we're focusing on support system during a pandemic. And we have little pins that we're going to put in those too, and we're really excited about. So we will be out by Walk from 5 to 7, and you can pick those up. We have stress balls in them. We have stickers, tea, so many fun little things. And then Thursday we have paint canvassing. So we'll be on Memorial Mall, and we get to paint whatever your heart desires, listen to music, just chill, just be. And then Friday we have yoga, and we're going to be talking about self-care, and we're partnering with Sky. So we're really excited for that too. Yeah.
Andrew and Tina have done everything each other did a great job coming on this week, but don't let this be like a thing where this is the only time you should ever talk about mental health. It's something that you should always be
a really good job to like introduce you guys to different resources and ways to get help. But don't ever think this is the only time that you can ever get help or the only time you've ever had these conversations. This should just honestly be a starting point that we kind of talked about at the very beginning.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And we want to give a big shout out to Sydney, who has helped us. She's been a big help, especially with like brainstorming and anxiety kits and everything. So
She's our mental health lead chair.
yes, shout out to her and all of her help.
It sounds so fun. I want to be. I want to get a free kid and have some.
Yes.
Yeah, so y'all should sign up via Boiler link, and you can sign up for our events and come through. But that's all we have for today. So
Yeah. Thank you again.
That's it. See if I can figure out. Bye. Thanks for listening and tuning in.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, pull up the first slide of the mental health thing so I can take a picture of you guys.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Bye, Alan. I'm gonna end this.
Wait, are they staying for the exec meeting?
Oh.
I just want to say I really enjoyed your presentation.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
I already texted Megan about this, but if you need any help with like the booths or anything like that, I'm glad to help.
Yeah, absolutely. We can send it to you in the group meet, or
Yeah.
do you? I can take your phone number if you would like to like separately get them,
That's fine. I'm in the group.
or you're in the group meet.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your name? 'Cause I can-
Grace.
Grace. Okay. Perfect. Okay, I will remember that, and I can send it to you guys all in the big group meet, or I'll send it to you separately on group meet.
Okay.
If you would really like that.
I'm not sure if I'm in the big group. I definitely know I'm in the development group, but I don't know
Okay.
if I'm in the big one.
Okay. Do you want to be added to the big one?
Yes.
Okay. Let me find that. Okay. And would you like to add your phone number?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because I don't know if I'd be able to get it without it. Here you go.
All right.
So I think, there's certain things that are serious enough that you don't want to just like, like when Max was in the DM, we all kind of like have fun with it. Here, it was like, just us kind of getting into it. But I think when you're talking about serious topics, you need to have the serious.
All right.
Awesome. I'm glad you're in it now.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much again.
Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. And it wasn't literally, when it
I was trying so hard. You're like, no, you didn't really.
I like looking at you. I was like, you got this. I really don't. It's a hard one to talk about. I think I had too much coffee earlier, and I was like,
I'm sorry, crying.
I had like a book that I got spread out between 2 days.
You what?
I got a Starbucks drink yesterday, and I didn't drink any of it, and I just drank all of it like within an hour this morning. I was like, I don't usually drink coffee.
I've never had that. I know. I'm like, I have literally at 12 o'clock. I'm still feeling it. I'm scared.
So I think it's best like preserve the information because they definitely thought about it. You know what I mean? If we did it differently.
And the idea with like reading on slides, I always thought when teachers said you should never read off the slide. When we're like online, whatever now, and you've got so many things on your laptop screen, I'm also really grateful when people just read off a slide and they have exactly what they're saying on the slide, so I know what's being said. Because sometimes
With the masks too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pull up your mental health. I just want to take a picture of you guys with the.
Yeah,
I think sure thing. I was literally sending you a picture of it.
There's our picture with the mental health thing, and then
Hey,
there's
Nor,
Yeah.
we still have people here
That's fine.
for the e-board. But I don't
wait,
know.
guys, that's a different link. Wait, is that? Hi everyone. Wait, I think it's the link on the agenda. So we're gonna end this. Okay, bye. Bye. It's also in like